Okay, now we're going to install the control horns. You get a couple control horns. They'll come with a little base attached to them. Just separate the base. And how we're going to do this is pretty easy. You'll need a triangle with a 90-degree on it. And what we're going to do is we're going to run this thing up next to the servo arm. Okay, and we're going to run this along the trailing edge of the elevon. So we got a perpendicular to that. And then starting right there at the hinge line, you'll be able to see it. Just score you a pencil mark so you can see it. Doesn't take much. There we go. Now take the control horn, and where you want the holes on the control horn, ideally you want those to line up right to the hinge line. Oops. Sorry for the interruption there. So anyway, we're going to line these holes up on the hinge line, and you can see it's got a control horn kind of cuts in, as you can see this. And we're just going to make the mark where that control horn cuts in at on the line. And that's kind of where we want to cut our slot, and just go mark the width of it. We'll adjust it as we cut it. So that's where we want to cut our slot at. And the way I cut these slots, I just take an old X-Acto knife blade with the X-Acto number 11 blade on it, and I heat it up. And then starting at our mark back, just press it straight through and go all the way through. That'll do the cut, and it'll melt away a little bit of the foam. And now, I want to just kind of fit it. The way to fit it, I'm just going to fit it from the bottom. And you'll find that it's probably going to be, well, it's going to need to be cut back in the back a little bit, because obviously the way the horn slants back. So what I'm going to do, heat up the blade. I'll get that a little bit. I have to do just a little bit more. What we want the flat part of this control horn to fit flush with the bottom. So I just need to bring this back just a little bit more. Angle it in, and here I'm working on the bottom side because we're going to push the control arm up to the bottom. Oops, put it in the right direction. Now, when you get it to where it sits flush, or sits flat, so like that. There we go. And you should be able to push that horn up in and get it pretty close to the hinge line there. If you have to do any adjustments, now's the time to do them. This one's back a little bit, so we need to add a little bit more to the front. Okay, so when we're done here, we want the horn to come through, and we want those holes to be pretty close, as close as we can to the hinge line there. Now, once you're satisfied with the location, we're going to flip it over, and we need to cut out the just the laminate right there around the bottom of the horn. And again, the easiest way to do that, I find, is with heat. Now I just want to remove the laminate there, because we want all this horn is going to get epoxied to the foam. The slot, once it's in, will get filled up with epoxy and will harden and make a nice hard joint there. And so we got it cut out. So next up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and do the other side, and then we'll epoxy it in. Okay, to glue these horns in, we're going to use some 5-minute epoxy. Get this at the local hobby shop. You can also find 5-minute epoxy, I think, at hardware stores and stuff like that, in the tubes. Or you can get it on Amazon.com. Just need to put it in there. I need to mix it up real well. And then we're going to glue these horns in with epoxy. This epoxy will set up fairly quickly. And when it dries, it'll dry nice and hard where that horn goes in. You're going to need where to put these in, a couple of pieces of wax paper, some alcohol with a paper towel helps to clean off epoxy. You're also going to need a clamp. You can use a clothespin. That works okay. I have some of these small clamps I get from Harbor Freight that I'm going to use. They work a little bit better. Once we get the epoxy glued in, I'm going to do both of these. I'll be working kind of quickly here. I'm going to do both of these at the same time. If you don't feel comfortable working that fast, just do one at a time. As with any epoxy, make sure to mix it thoroughly. And once it's mixed up, pull these horns out. Next, I'll take it back. I'm just going to do this side. Okay, that side's not quite ready, so we're just going to do the one side, make it easy. So all we got to do is just need to put some epoxy. That's a little bit in the top. Flip it over. And this is where we do most of the work at. On the bottom side. And we marry it very simply. Put some epoxy in the slot. Work it down in there. You can see on the camera, okay? Take the control horn. Epoxy around the base where it's going to go in there and glue to the foam. Okay. Once you get down there, you can set the epoxy aside. Obviously, make sure to glue the horn in the correct way. And we're going to push that down in there. You want to get squeeze out. This is where a little bit of alcohol helps out. Just kind of pull it through with a paper towel. A little bit of alcohol on it will clean off the epoxy on those holes there. Okay, now this is where you're going to need a little bit of paper towels. I'm going to put a paper towel over the horn on the bottom, and then I'm just going to use these clamps. You can see that okay. And I'm going to make sure it's positioned properly. What we're going to do is we're going to really kind of cram that horn into the foam. There we go. And you just clamp it until the base of the horn pretty much goes in flush with the elevon. Now we're just going to let that sit up and harden. If you're doing so, just be real careful. You can move it over, and any excess epoxy obviously gets on it. A little bit of rubbing alcohol makes it easy to clean up. Now we'll set that aside to dry for a few minutes.